Chair, Honorable Minister for Finance and Corporate Affairs, Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman, has been in Mumbai, along with her entire team of secretaries to the Government of India in the Ministry of Finance, and also the Chief Economic Advisor, as part of what has now become customary post-budget outreach initiative. During the two-day visit, the Minister and her team interacted with stakeholders belonging to industry and trade, large taxpayers, and select professionals yesterday. You are well aware of this event, which was streamed live and tweeted live by the PIB as well as the Ministry of Finance handles. The Minister also had meeting with financial market intermediaries, financial market functionaries, chaired the Financial Stability and Development Council meeting, and also interacted with bankers, the details of which you will hear soon. The Finance Minister and the Minister of State, Dr. Bhagwat Karat, are joined on the dais by the Revenue Secretary, Mr. Tarun Bajaj, the Chief Economic Advisor, Dr. Anant Nageshwaran, to the right, and the Economic Affairs Secretary, Mr. Ajay Seth, and Financial Services Secretary, Mr. Sanjay Malhotra, to the left, at this press conference concluding the visit to Mumbai. Now, I would request Madam Minister to give her opening remarks, after which we shall open the floor for Q&A. Madam, please.
Okay. The introduction is, in a way, already given. It's a customary visit, customary after the budget. The entire Finance Ministry team comes. We interact with industry, we interact with the financial market players. This time we, in addition, had also the FSDC meeting here, which normally happens prior to the budget itself, but prior to the budget we had inputs come and also on the phone some conversations, but we thought we should hold it immediately after the presentation of the budget. The finance bill is still in the Parliament. So that's about what we did 2 days here in Mumbai. Very meaningful interactions. Industry in particular went into some detail about the features which they think will help the revival which were presented in the budget. The financial market, mutual funds and others. Each time, of course, we did have the concerned regulator also. The SEBI was present, and so that interaction was also very useful. Today we've had the FSDC, in which all the regulators, the SEBI, RBI, PFRDA, IRDAI, all of them are present, which is the highest body which discusses financial stability related issues currently, which is on before us, and also look at the near future and see what best has to be adopted as a course, which normally happens, and this time it has happened here. Then there was this elaborate interaction with all the banks, the public sector banks and also the private banks, with the Secretary DFS and also Secretary DEA present in the meeting, Sanjay Malhotra and also Ajay Seth. Of course, Chief Economic Advisor Professor Anant Nageshwaran was also present in these meetings with us. So, as an opening remark, I think I'll leave it at this, and I suppose greater pointed interchange of ideas will happen if we go through the motions of asking questions and seeking clarification, if anything, that you would want to ask us.
Thank you very much, Madam, for giving the opportunity for asking questions, more time for asking questions. We can begin with the CNBC. Ritu, you can begin with.
Thank you very much. I'm Ritu from CNBC. First question is on a couple of issues that were announced in the budget last year.
Can you just speak into the microphone, please? I mean, we'll just hand over the mic to you.
Okay. Am I audible? Yes. The privatization of banks and insurance companies announced in the budget last year, we've not heard any forward movement on those fronts. If you could update us on that, that is one. The second thing, also on the LIC IPO, now that the DRHP has been filed, given the current market conditions with the geopolitical tensions and the strain that we're seeing, are you confident of it sailing through in the current financial year itself? And any comments at all on the crude prices if the government is considering some sort of a tax relief? Thank you.
On the privatization, we've been on course since last budget. In the last budget, I had listed out the names of those for which Cabinet had already given us the clearance. And in that, at that time, the question, let's say, from the media used to be, when are you doing Air India? So the fact is that we are moving forward, and that is why Air India got cleared. NINL got cleared, although in NINL, government doesn't receive any money because the ownerships are with state government and so on. LIC IPO was also something which has been very enthusiastically, eagerly waited. Even that's come out. So we are on course and we are moving forward. And I also recognize that even as you're asking as to what is happening about the privatization, you're equally worried if the market situation is conducive for LIC. So if it's good for LIC, it is good for everything else. And if it has got headwinds for LIC, it has got headwinds for the rest as well. I can see in the market now that draft red herring prospectus is out, and that there is a buzz in the market, there's a lot of interest in the market, and I'm glad at the way in which it's been crafted, in that shareholders also have a role to play and so on. So I think the way it is crafted has created a lot of interest, and we'll be going ahead with it.
In the current financial year?
Well, DRHP is not issued 2 years in advance, is it? So, yeah.
Yes, yes.
No, no, I've not finished all the questions.
Okay.
Unless you want me to avoid it.
No.
See, on the crude prices, very difficult to say as to how it's going to go. Even today, in the FSDC, when we were looking at the challenges which is posed for the financial stability, crude was one of the things. International worrisome situations where we actually voiced that we want a diplomatic solution for the situation that is developing in Ukraine. All these are headwinds. On the crude, obviously, is one of the very important consideration. We'll have to see how it goes. Today itself, the rate is somewhere in the range of 96 Brent. So we'll keep a watch.
Yes, yes. After that, you hand over to Abhijit there. Yeah.
Madam, she asked about the privatization in the financial sector, the banks and the insurance companies.
I thought I answered it.
Ma'am, I'm Yash Jain from CNBC TV 18. I want to ask you two questions. The first one is with respect to a recent SEBI order which had come, which was around the National Stock Exchange and the role of the former MD and CEO. Of course, at the conclusion, they were charged a penalty and some more as far as barring them from the markets is concerned. But do you think that that was too less of a penalty which was put on them? There should have been more which should have been done. Are you looking at reviewing that order along with market regulator and taking it forward from this point? That is one question. And the second one is, you spoke about your meeting with the FSDC. Now, two important regulators, IRDA and SEBI. IRDA doesn't have a chairman since the last 9 months, I guess. We've been waiting for some appointment on that particular position. Where is it stuck? When do we see that appointment happening? And what's the progress on SEBI? Do we see the current chairman getting an extension beyond February? Or are you going to start with the process of appointing a new chairman at SEBI?
Well, on the first question, the NSC, I have no comment to make on whether there was an adequate correctional step in the sense of penalizing or anything taken against those who were held responsible for it. And I have no view this way or that way till I really get to the bottom of what is available before me. I am looking into it, but I won't be able to comment on it at the moment, whether it was enough, whether it is not. So on that, that is how far I can go. On the chiefs of IRDA, yes, of course, I recognize it's been vacant, and the person holding additional charge is the one who's probably steering it forward, and the government will appoint somebody. As regards SEBI chief, I think Ajay can correct me, the process of calling for applications has already happened. I don't know whether it means this way or that way. Shortlisting probably is yet to happen. So you'll have to wait till the 28th to know what we are going to do on it.
And how long would be the wait for IRDA, just to get an understanding?
Oh, I appreciate the concern, and I equally like to have somebody at the earliest.
Yes, go ahead.
Ma'am, I'm Joel Rebello. I write for the Economic Times. I want to step back for a macro picture. You've met a lot of people today, bankers today, yesterday, and industrialists. They gave you a lot of feedback, must be. So the demand in the economy, we are still, we are better than we were last year, but there's still some way to go. In terms of reviving demand or stimulating more demand, is there any suggestions that they came with? And is there anything that you can share for the next fiscal? How are you all looking at it? Is there anything we can expect in terms of reviving demand with what you have done post-budget after the meetings you had across the country?
Well, the budget is going to take shape and effect only from 1st April. And what I plan to do in the coming year is what I've said in the budget. So every step that we want to take in order to get this economy moving and progressing fast is mentioned in the budget. So let it play out from 1st April. So that is the larger picture, which is very descriptively mentioned in the budget itself.
Any suggestions from the industrialists and bankers that you think that can be worked forward from the meetings that you had?
No, the meeting is what, as was said rightly, it's an outreach on the budget.
We can take a press question from the Marathi press. Vaibhav, Maharashtra Times.
वैभव फ्रॉम महाराष्ट्र टाइम्स। एक सवाल था कि जीएसटी कॉम्पेंसेशन जो है वो इस साल ख़त्म हो जाएगा, तो ऑब्वियसली जीएसटी काउंसिल ही वो डिसाइड करेगी कि क्या करना है, बट स्टिल आई विश टू नो दैट एनी रोड मैप which you are planning to give as a central ministry to the states कि आगे क्या करना है और क्या कर सकते हैं, because GST compensation will be getting over this year.
जीएसटी काउंसिल ने ही तय कर दिया कि कॉम्पनसेशन सेस कलेक्शन आगे भी जारी रहेगी अप टू मार्च 2026, क्योंकि जो कमी हमने कैलकुलेट किया 2020 में उसको भरपाई करने के लिए ही एक्सटेंशन ज़रूरी है, और उसको पहचान करके जीएसटी काउंसिल ने सेस कलेक्शन को एक्सटेंड करने के लिए सिर्फ वो बाकी और वो लोन का इंटरेस्ट पे करने के लिए एक्सटेंशन कैलकुलेट करके कर दिया है, और सिर्फ वो भरपाई करने के लिए ही एक्सटेंशन 2026 मार्च तक आवश्यक है. So it's already extended up to March 2026, and it is extended to pay the money which has to be paid for the 2020 gap that arose in the compensation, and also for paying the interest on the borrowed money.
Ma'am, hi, I'm Melika Doshi with Bloomberg Quint. I just wanted to follow up on the question that was just asked with regards to GST compensation cess. I understand the extension, as you explained, is broadly to recompense for the previous year's shortfalls. But is it the thinking of the central government at all? If the states were to bring up the proposal for an extension even beyond that, would the central government be in favor of such an extension, especially given that you have underscored the need for infrastructure building in this budget, and states will have to play a large part in that, and therefore they will need the money?
For the states to play a large part in that is when we, from last year, have been giving them the 50-year interest-free loan, which was only 10,000 crores, where because the states showed a great appetite for it and we extended it within the 12-month period to 15,000 crores. And this year we have said the same thing, 1 lakh crore for the states for the next 50 years interest-free. So on infrastructure building, we've already given that. But see, the GST Council, there is no adversarial relationship. States versus the center. If the states bring this proposal, will the center? We're all in it together. So whatever gets discussed there, it gets discussed there. And per the existing compensation in the GST Act, the 14% was to be given for 5 years. Now, towards that period, within the 5 year, the compensation which has to be paid couldn't be paid. We had to, for that compensation strictly limited to that, this was extended. So that's where we are.
Sorry, if I may draw a conclusion based on what you said, does that mean...
You may
that
not draw any conclusion other than what I've meant to say in my...
Right. But if I can extrapolate that just one more time.
At your risk.
All right, fair enough. Ma'am, you're suggesting that if the states were to bring up such a proposal to extend it beyond just the effort to recompensate for previous year shortfalls, that the central government would be willing to support that, but maybe not at 14%. Would that be a fair takeaway or
How did you start your question?
You're suggesting this or indicating this? Would that be a fair takeaway?
I've not suggested anything other than what I've said. No suggestions, pointed answer.
All right. Can I ask one more question on the FSDC meeting, if that's all right, ma'am? Given that you already pointed out some of the headwinds that all economies across the world are facing right now, geopolitics reflected in oil prices, and the fact that there is now a far more aggressive forecast of the US Federal Reserve raising rates faster, quicker. Was there any conversation with the financial market and sector regulators?
No, you started with FSDC, financial sector, you
FSDC,
mean regulators?
Yes, the regulators, ma'am. Was there any conversation on extraordinary measures that you all are preparing to keep if this does turn out to be a year of extreme volatility because of sharp tightening of monetary policy in the US?
Extreme volatility, yes, a lot of discussion. Headwinds, a lot of discussion. But no extraordinary, did you use that word, extraordinary steps being, none of that.
Any special steps being discussed?
No.
You know, in coordination with the regulators or anything like that?
No, a lot of discussion, but no extraordinary steps being discussed.
All right, thank you very much.
नमस्ते मैम, अनुराग फ्रॉम जी बिजनेस मैम जिस तरह से अभी आपने ये जो आईआरडीए के चेयरमैन का पद है जो पिछले 10 महीने से खाली पड़ा है, तो क्या इस वित्त वर्ष में उसकी नियुक्ति हो जाएगी या अगले वित्त वर्ष के लिए? क्योंकि जो इंश्योरेंस कंपनियों का कहना है कि पॉलिसी डिसीजन जो है काफी रुके हुए पड़े, जिससे कंपनियों को काफी नुकसान हो रहा है। पर इसी से जुड़ा हुआ मैम जो एक दिल्ली हाईकोर्ट का ऑर्डर आ गया कि बैंक बोर्ड ब्यूरो जो है वो इंश्योरेंस के अंदर नियुक्ति नहीं कर सकता, तो वहां पर अभी और दिक्कत आएगी। अगले हफ्ते ही न्यू इंडिया एश्योरेंस के सीएमडी रिटायर हो जाएंगे, तो वो पद भी फिर खाली रहेगा। और मैम जो जनरल इंश्योरेंस कंपनियों के जो सरकारी जनरल इंश्योरेंस के कंपनियों के कर्मचारी हैं वो बार बार हड़ताल पे जा रहे हैं। उनका कहना है कि जो उनके 55 महीने से वेज रिवीजन नहीं हुआ है और बाकी सब जो उनके साथ के लोग हैं LIC और बैंक्स वगैरह का वहाँ हो गया है, तो ये हड़ताल की वजह से ही आम लोगों को भी नुकसान होता है। तो क्या उनकी जो मांगे हो जेन्युइन है, उसको कुछ देखा जा रहा है?
उनके मांगे जेन्युइन है नहीं जेन्युइन है, मैं वो कुछ भी नहीं कमेंट कर सकती हूँ। उनके आवाज़ सुनना चाहिए, हम सुनेंगे उनके आवाज़, वो उसमें कोई दो राय नहीं है। ये न्यू इंडिया का चेयरमैन अपॉइंटमेंट है, कोर्ट में BBB के ऊपर टिप्पणी आया है, उसमें है वो हम रिएक्ट करेंगे, मतलब पोजीशन अपॉइंट करने के लिए जो भी कदम उठाना है उठाएंगे हम।
आईआईडी चेयरमैन दिस फाइनेंशियल ईयर और नेक्स्ट फाइनेंशियल ईयर?
मैं ट्रांसलेट करूंगी हिंदी में इसको या आप ही करेंगे?
मैम आपने उस समय कहा था कि somebody is appointed जो डिसीजन ले रहा है, बट कंपनियों का कहना है कि जो थर्ड पार्टी मोटर प्राइसिंग वगैरह
ठीक है, वो एडिशनल चार्ज करने वाले का सीमित जो होगा डिसीजन, उसके अंतर्गत जो करना है वो कर रहे हैं, मगर इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि चेयरमैन बिना चल सकते, नहीं, चेयरमैन अपॉइंट होंगे और उनको जो मैंने कहा वही आपको रिपीट कर रही हूँ, जल्द से जल्द करने के लिए कोशिश करें।
थैंक यू सो मच मैम।
Just a second.
From when on have I started discussing individuals?
Yeah, we'll take some questions from
Ma'am.
Bart. Please go ahead.
मैम अभिषेक पांडे न्यूज़ नेशन से। अभी जो रसिया और यूक्रेन के बीच जो वार जैसी सिचुएशन है उसके कारण आज शेयर मार्केट में बहुत फ्लक्चुएशन रहा और 2-3 दिनों से लगातार है। उस फ्यूल प्राइसेस बढ़ने के चांसेस हैं, मेटल और जो भी चीज़ें हैं, तो सरकार इसको कैसे देख रही है और क्या स्टेबिलिटी, मार्केट स्टेबिलिटी और छोटे इन्वेस्टर्स को लेकर के किस तरीके से एश्योरिटी देने की कोशिश की जाएगी सरकार की तरफ से?
नहीं, जो मार्केट में उथल पुथल हो रही है वो विदेश में जो हो रही है उसके कारण उसमें सरकार नहीं है, मगर सरकार अलग से उधर जो हो रही है उसके ऊपर हम वॉच कर रहे हैं, आपस में चर्चा गोष्ठी कर रहे हैं और उसके कारण जो भी हमारे ऊपर दबाव आएगा इस सब का वी आर कीपिंग अ वॉच एंड वी आर मूविंग फॉरवर्ड ऑन दैट।
क्योंकि फ्यूल प्राइसेस खास करके चूँकि सेंटर की तरफ से जो भी चीज़ें जो आपके सुपरविज़न में हैं उस पर पॉलिटिकल भी तमाम सारी मूवमेंट और प्रोटेस्ट आपके सामने हैं, और जिस तरीके से उस पर कैसे देख रही हैं फ्यूल प्राइसेस को लेकर के?
मैं फ्यूल प्राइसेस के ऊपर मैं आपके सामने विषय याद दिलाना चाह रही हूँ कि दीपावली के एक दिन पहले प्रधानमंत्री जी ने ही खुद आ करके 7 रुपीज़ डीजल, 7 रुपीज़ इन पेट्रोल कम करवाए, 5 रुपीज़ इन डीजल आई थिंक कम करवाए ना। सो जनता के मांग सुन करके प्रधानमंत्री जी उस समय पर सामने आकर के ही कट के, और ग्लोबली प्राइसेस, फ्यूल प्राइसेस के वजह से जो हो रही है, और प्राइस सिर्फ ज़्यादा होना एक प्रॉब्लम सिर्फ नहीं है, चैलेंज ये भी है कि शॉर्टफॉल भी है, सप्लाई उनसे जो उत्पादन होकर आना है उसमें भी कटौती हो रही है, सप्लाई भी कम कर रहे हैं, बहुत सारे ऐसे चैलेंजेस हैं।
मैम एक दूसरा सवाल इससे स्टेट गवर्नमेंट से रिलेटेड है। एक मिनट मनीष भाई,
there's a supplementary question which has come online. Would you like to take on that?
Yeah, I'll answer.
एक मैम जीएसटी से जुड़ा सवाल है चूँकि आपके डिपार्टमेंट का है। जिस स्टेट में आप हैं, महाराष्ट्र में हमेशा फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर की तरफ से कहा जाता है कि सेंटर की तरफ से हमें जो भी जीएसटी स्टेट का है वो सही समय पे नहीं मिल पाता है, और कभी 15,000 का आंकड़ा दिया जा रहा है कि 15,000 करोड़ बाकी है, कभी 25,000 करोड़ बाकी। आप तक भी बातें पहुंच रही होंगी, इसको आप कैसे देखती हैं?
जीएसटी काउंसिल में हर राज्य का वित्त मंत्री बैठते हैं, निर्णय लेते हैं, और हर महीना जीएसटी से जितना पैसा उनके हाथ में जा रही है और कितना बाकी है, ये 2020 के 43rd जीएसटी काउंसिल में तय होकर के अमाउंट इतना आपको पहुंचेगा, बाकी जो है वो जुलाई 22 से हम वो भरपाई करेंगे। ये सबके समक्ष में जीएसटी ऐसा एक फ्रेम ढांचा है जिसमें स्टेट्स का राय एक विषय हो, दूसरा हमारी राय, ऐसे कुछ नहीं होता। बंटवारे हर महीना होता है, जो कलेक्ट होते हैं सबके सामने कलेक्ट होते हैं। पहला तारीख आपको फरवरी 1 को जनवरी में जो कलेक्शन हुआ उसका खुलेआम डिक्लेरेशन होता है, पब्लिक स्टेटमेंट, प्रेस रिलीज सब होता है। इसमें मैं चाहती हूँ तो भी महाराष्ट्र का पैसा वापस रख के बाकी सबको देना या सिर्फ महाराष्ट्र को ज़्यादा देना, ये सब नामुमकिन है। ये सिस्टम है, सिस्टम में ही ये सब बिल्ट इन है कि एक को मिले तो सबको मिले, एक का बाकी है तो सबका भी उस प्रोपोर्शन में बाकी है, मगर बाकी काउंसिल में तय होकर के बाकी रहता है, मेरा इच्छा के अनुसार नहीं चलता। जीएसटी में निर्णय जो होता है उसके अनुसार ही होता। वैसे महाराष्ट्र का फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर हमारे जीएसटी का एक बड़ा सा ग्रुप ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स का चीफ है जी। सो हम उनको बहुत ही सम्मानजनक देखते हैं, उनका बाकी क्यों रखेंगे?
Yes, next is Shama, and after that, India Today, Aaj Tak later on. Shama,
Hi
please
ma'am,
go ahead.
I'm Shama from Doordarshan News. This is a follow-up question on Ukraine-Russia crisis. What does it mean for Indian trade at a larger picture, and how are we prepared?
Well, at this moment, the impact on our trade is yet to be felt in that sense, you know. But I think our exporters are also fairly mindful of what is happening. Ministry of External Affairs has been in touch with all the countries around that area. Overall also, our attempt is to get a diplomatic solution so that, you know, tensions come down and trade doesn't get affected. At this stage, beyond that, I may not be able to say. However, we are all careful that our exporters don't suffer.
Ma'am, Rachita
Wait a
Prasad
second,
here.
I mean, let him finish and then we'll come to you.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Kamlesh Sutar from India Today Aaj Tak. Ma'am, since you're in Maharashtra, I'm asking this question because there have been frequent allegations against the enforcement director by the ruling coalition in Maharashtra that the action taken by the ED is politically motivated. And recently, one of the Shiv Sena leaders had also said that enforcement director officials are indulged into extortion. Would you like to comment on that?
See, even if enforcement directorate wishes to do something for political or any other, it's just not possible unless you have the material before you, which is substantive enough. And ED, mind you, cannot go there first. It's a law enforcing agency which deals with predicate offense, which means there is an offense somewhere that's been acted upon. Post that, there is an offense created which is coming under the PMLA realm, which is Prevention of Money Laundering Act, under that realm, and then the ED goes in there. It requires so much of work. And without that groundwork in their hand, ED cannot enter anywhere. So ED overnight thinking, oh yes, my enemy is here, my friend is there, I won't go there, I will go here, is impossible. There is an offense created somewhere. That offense is being investigated. As a fallout, there could be a PMLA angle based on which ED goes. So you're all very senior, experienced journalists. Please understand the role of the enforcement directorate. It cannot jump in first. There is an offense somewhere else that's being investigated. So no, even if I wish, it just cannot happen. But even if I wish, if there is an offense there, I can't stop it either.
Yes, you can go now.
Hi, Ma'am, Finance Minister. Rachita here from Money Control. You spoke about the fuel prices and you said how PM came forward and cut the duty when crude was at $80. We are at 96, like you highlighted earlier. And of course, the macro situation is not really in our control. Given the situation and given the fact that OMCs have not really increased fuel prices for the last 2 months, there is an expectation that they would be increasing it sometime soon. Given this background, how comfortable are you with the current prices, and what is the band that the government is watching in terms of the crude prices before it actually steps in with an excise duty cut?
You know, you're asking questions where I can easily be tempted to give you an answer for areas which don't belong to me. However, for the area that belongs to me, or the governance, the political dispensation, I took this example to say when Prime Minister came out to say, no, I want to. And many states, I'm very grateful, followed suit, and the burden on the consumer was brought down. But about why oil marketing companies who actually play on the price, meaning they buy at a certain cost, 15 days average is taken out, Based on that, they put on the, pump level price out. So what the oil marketing companies will have to do, why they have not done it for the last 7 days, 17 days, 27 days, I cannot answer.
That's not my question.
No, you did mention that part.
I mentioned that because
you didn't want me to answer on that?
No, of course. And you have you have been very categorical that that's not under the purview of the government.
Absolutely.
The expectation is they will be increasing. So given all these developments, what I'm trying to understand is at what stage would the government like to come in, if at all, to take
When it comes at a stage, it will come out publicly.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Please pass the mic behind.
Namaskar.
Yeah, we are coming. Everybody will get a
Jivan
chance.
Mavsar from Akashvani. मैम फेक जीएसटी इनपुट टैक्स रेट के जो बिल्स बना के बहुत सारे मामले देश भर में सामने आ रहे हैं, महाराष्ट्र में भी आ रहे हैं, तो क्या इसके बारे में कंसोलिडेटेड कुछ डेटा मिलेगा कि अब तक कितने फेक इनपुट टैक्स रेट के हमने मामले सामने आए हैं और इन सब को प्लग इन करने के लिए, ये सब बंद करने के लिए हम क्या स्टेप्स उठा रहे हैं?
Would you mind if I ask Revenue Secretary to answer on that, because he can give you all the details?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So you have got a microphone, sir.
फेक जीएसटी का जो इशू है वो हम शुरू से, जब से जीएसटी चालू हुआ है, हम उसको फेस कर रहे हैं. इसके लिए हमने काफ़ी सारे स्टेप्स लिए हैं. सबसे पहले तो अभी हमने लेटेस्ट जो आ गया है सीक्वेंशियल फाइलिंग कर दिया है. तो सीक्वेंशियल फाइलिंग का मतलब ये है कि अगर आपने GSTR 1 नहीं फाइल किया है तो आप GSTR 3 भी अगले माह में फाइल नहीं कर सकते हैं. तो अगर आपने फेक बिलिंग किया हुआ है 1 महीने के लिए, तो वो 1 महीने के पीरियड में आप शायद, हम उसके लिए भी हम कार्रवाई कर रहे हैं. आने वाले दिनों में उस पर भी हम क्या स्टेप्स लेंगे आपके सामने रखेंगे, वो करेंगे. और प्री फिलिंग हमने शुरू कर दिया है. जब शुरू में कोई जीएसटी का रजिस्ट्रेशन लेता है उसके लिए आधार कंपलसरी कर दिया है. इस तरह के हमने स्टेप्स काफ़ी लिए हैं. और आपके द्वारा मैं सबको बताना चाहूँगा कि आज के दिन हम ये भी जानकारी ले सकते हैं कि अगर कोई ट्रक किसी टोल ब्रिज से निकला, कब निकला, कैसे निकला, और अगर कोई व्यक्ति वहाँ पर एनफोर्समेंट का खड़ा है तो उसके इस ऐप पे आ जाएगा कि वो ट्रक कहाँ से कहाँ जा रहा है और क्या माल लेके जा रहा है. तो अगर उसके रूट में वो नहीं है तो वहीं पर पकड़ सकता है. और कुछ स्टेट्स ने इस पर काफ़ी कार्रवाई की है. मेरे पास डेटा है, अभी इमीडिएटली डेटा नहीं है, लेकिन हमने काफ़ी फेक बिल्स के हमने पकड़े हैं. और अब इन स्टेप्स को लेने के बाद उसमें काफ़ी कमी आ रही है. और मुझे पूरी उम्मीद है कि आने वाले दिनों में, जब ये कोरोना भी थोड़ा सा कम हो गया, हम थोड़े और स्टेप्स ले सकते हैं, तो इसको हम काफ़ी हद तक कंट्रोल कर लेंगे. आपको ये भी जानकारी देना चाहूँगा कि जो रेवेन्यू 1,30,000, 1,35,000, 1,40,000 और पिछले माह 1,41,000 जो आया है, वो कुछ इकोनॉमी में इम्प्रूवमेंट की वजह से आया है, लेकिन कुछ इस वजह से भी आया है कि हमने इस तरह के स्टेप्स लिए हैं. और आज के दिन 1 करोड़ शायद 38 लाख असेसीज हैं जीएसटी में, जो कि जब जीएसटी चालू हुआ था वो 70 लाख से कम थे. तो धीरे धीरे हर व्यक्ति फॉर्मलाइजेशन की तरफ आ रहा है. और आप स्वयं ही हर माह की शुरुआत में इसके इम्प्रूवमेंट आप देख लेते हैं.
Yes, you can have a question, please.
Yeah. Ma'am, Ruchit Purohit from Financial Express. So, what discussions have been made with market functionaries on corporate governance lapses, and and what is the ministry, doing about it?
I thought I answered that already as to what the ministry is doing, and with the market functionaries yesterday, there wasn't a specific discussion on this.
Hi ma'am, here Alek here from Informist. Yesterday Chairman LIC spoke about that LIC would like to keep a strategic stake in
Hey, you don't mind me, I didn't hear you. Where are you from? Which?
I'm from Informist Media.
Oh, there is one like that?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry about it, I didn't know.
Name has changed. Yes.
Yeah, it was Cogensis.
Cogensis. Oh, right, yes, okay, fine.
Chairman LIC spoke about that LIC would like to keep a strategic stake in IDBI Bank, but Deepam is soon expected to make an announcement related to IDBI. So if you could give some comments on that. Earlier the LIC was to pared down the stake before listing, but now there's been change in the
Would
thought
you mind
process.
waiting for Deepam to come out and make an announcement? I may not be able to.
Is it expected in this financial year or before listing? If you can say something.
There seems to be the same question coming from so many different sources. I've said it already.
Yeah, please pass the microphone next.
You'll get to know about it.
Hello, ma'am. Swati from Reuters. I just had one broad macro question. We've seen the government ban, more than 50 apps, Chinese apps again. There have been more than like 200 apps banned over the last 2 years or so. What is the future of, our economic and trade policy with China? Do you see any kind of impact from these app bans? That's one, just a broad view on that. And a second question is, we have, the government cancelled 2 bond auctions over the last 2 weeks because of the good cash balance position. But they've gone ahead and announced an auction for this Friday. Is this likely to be the last auction for the year, or will the government likely, reschedule the cancelled auctions? Thank you.
On your first question, apps are banned because they are found being deleterious on one ground or the other. So they are banned for that reason. Also looking at states and their priorities, the infrastructure pipeline, which had about 6,000 odd projects at that time, some of them will also be taken over. National asset monetization will go along with this, although that's a different card altogether. So I'm only giving you the flags for drawing your attention, but maybe from 1st April, there will be more specific picture arrived at, and I can let you know by that time.
I think with that we can conclude the press conference. Thank you very much for spending time and interacting with the media in Mumbai, and thank you all of you for asking good questions here, and I request all of you to join for the high tea also, and thank you very much everyone on the dais. So please, thank you very much and good evening.